You can't get anything, but you can get clarity, respect, and consistency. And that difference is the moment you stop hurting yourself for love. Because when you've been dealing with an avoidant, your heart gets desperate for control. Not because you're toxic, not because you're manipulative, but because uncertainty is exhausting. Uncertainty makes you feel like you're living on shifting ground. One day they're warm, one day they're distant. One day you feel chosen. The next day you feel like you imagined everything. And in that emotional whiplash, your mind starts searching for a formula, a trick, a sentence that will finally make the relationship stable. That's why titles like "Get Anything You Want" feel so tempting. They promise relief. They promise certainty. They promise you won't have to feel helpless anymore. But I need you to hear the truth with tenderness. If you try to get anything from an avoidant, you will end up giving away everything: your peace, your dignity, your time, your self-respect. Because the moment your goal becomes controlling their behavior, you become trapped in a loop where your mood depends on their response. You become trapped in a relationship with their nervous system instead of a relationship with your own life. And the real power is not control. The real power is choice. Because you cannot force someone to be consistent, but you can refuse to be available for inconsistency. You cannot force someone to respect you, but you can stop rewarding disrespect with access. You cannot force someone to choose you, but you can stop choosing people who keep you in limbo. That is what getting something actually looks like. You get clarity, you get respect, you get consistency, or you get out. Not with drama, not with threats, with calm self-respect. Clarity is the first thing you must stop negotiating for. Clarity is not a luxury, it is emotional safety. Clarity is knowing where you stand. Clarity is knowing what you're building. Clarity is not being kept in. Maybe. Not being kept in. Sometime. Not being kept in. Let's see. Avoidants often live in vague because vague feels safe. Vague means no responsibility. Vague means they can enjoy closeness without being accountable to it. And when you accept vague, you become a placeholder in your own life. So getting clarity means you stop accepting mixed signals as normal. You stop making excuses for confusion. You stop telling yourself, "I shouldn't ask, I'll scare them." Because the truth is, if asking for clarity scares them away, they were only comfortable with you while you were unclear and available. And you deserve more than being loved only in the shadows. Respect is the second thing you must stop bargaining for. Respect is not how sweet they can be when they miss you. Respect is how they treat your heart when it's inconvenient. Respect is whether they communicate when they need space instead of disappearing. Respect is whether they repair after distance instead of returning like nothing happened. Respect is whether your needs are treated like valid or treated like pressure. Respect is not a compliment, it is a pattern. And an avoidant can say they respect you and still behave in ways that do not. They can say all the right things and still keep you on standby. That's why respect has to be measured through behavior. When someone respects you, they don't keep you guessing. When someone respects you, they don't vanish and call it space. When someone respects you, they don't ask you to lower your needs so they can stay comfortable. They rise, or they lose access. Consistency is the third thing, and it's the one that changes everything because consistency is the proof of intention. Consistency is not being perfect. Consistency is not texting all day. Consistency is emotional reliability. It is follow-through. It is showing up when it matters. It is not making you feel safe one day and disposable the next. It is not giving you warmth and then punishing you with silence. Consistency is the difference between love that heals you and love that slowly breaks you. So when you say, "I want to get anything I want from an avoidant," the real goal is not to get a person to behave. The real goal is to get the truth. To get the truth about what they can offer. To get the truth about their capacity. To get the truth about whether this relationship can ever be safe for you. And the way you get that truth is by stopping the one thing that keeps you stuck, rewarding the pattern. Because if every time they pull away you chase, you are rewarding pulling away. If every time they disappear you forgive without repair, you are rewarding disappearing. If every time they return with a sweet message you offer full access, you are rewarding breadcrumbs. And as long as the pattern is rewarded, the pattern stays. So your power is not in convincing them. Your power is in the conditions you set for closeness. You become calm and clear. You state your needs once, without drama. You don't over-explain. You don't argue. You don't beg. You simply say, "I want this, and this is what I need for it to feel good." And then you watch what happens. Do they rise to meet you, or do they retreat to keep control? Because an avoidant will often test your boundaries. Not always intentionally, but the dynamic does. They'll see if you'll accept vague again. They'll see if you'll accept a casual return. They'll see if you'll soften your standard because you miss them. And the moment you pass that test, the moment you stay steady, you get something priceless. You get self-trust. You get the feeling, I can rely on me. I can protect my heart. I can hold my own line. And that is where your life begins to change, because now you're not trying to get anything. You're choosing what's real. If they offer clarity, you continue. If they offer respect, you open. If they offer consistency, you build. And if they don't, you stop donating your love to someone who keeps you in uncertainty. And this is the most heart-touching part. You stop making their fear your prison. You stop making their avoidance your problem to solve. You stop asking, how do I get them to love me? And you start asking, is this love safe for me? Is this love steady? Is this love something I can breathe inside? Because the anything you truly want is not their attention, it's your peace. It's the ability to sleep without anxiety. It's the ability to live without waiting. It's the ability to love without begging. And the moment you choose clarity, respect, and consistency as your non-negotiables, you either get the relationship you deserve, or you get the freedom to stop suffering, and both outcomes are a win for the woman who is tired of chasing love and ready to be met. Stop negotiating your needs. Start stating them calmly. Because negotiation is what you do when you don't believe you're allowed to need what you need. Negotiation is what happens when you already fear they will leave, so you start trimming your truth into something smaller, something softer, something easier to swallow. You say, it's fine when it's not. You say, whenever you're free, when you're actually tired of waiting. You say, I don't want to be a burden, when what you really mean is, I don't want to lose you. And little by little, your needs become a guilty secret. Like asking for consistency is too much. Like wanting clarity is pressure. Like wanting to be treated with care is demanding. But love cannot grow where your needs have to hide. And with avoidance, this becomes even more painful, because they often interpret emotion as pressure, not because you are wrong to feel, but because pressure is what their nervous system expects from closeness. So you learn to tiptoe. You learn to be low maintenance. You learn to be the cool one. You learn to accept breadcrumbs and call it progress. And you may not realize it at first, but negotiation turns into self-erasure. You're not just trying to keep them comfortable, you're trying to keep the relationship alive, even if it means you're dying inside it. So the shift is not louder. It's not more emotional. It's calmer. It's clearer. It's you saying what you need without flooding, without begging, without turning it into a speech. Because the more you talk, the easier it is for them to disappear into vagueness. Calm statements have power because they don't invite debate. They set reality. And the reason calm works is because it is self-respect in a steady voice. Calm says, I'm not trying to control you. I'm telling you what works for me. Calm says, I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm telling you what I will participate in. Calm says, I'm not negotiating my needs down to keep you. I'm showing you the doorway to closeness, and you can walk through it or not. So what does it mean to state your needs calmly? It means you speak in sentences, not paragraphs. It means you name the need, not the whole history. It means you don't accuse, you don't label, you don't diagnose, you don't chase their understanding. You simply say, this is what I want, and this is what I require for this to feel good. It can sound like, I enjoy talking to you, and I need consistent communication to keep building this. It can sound like, I'm open to continuing, but I'm not available for disappearing and returning. It can sound like, I need clarity about what we're doing, because vague doesn't work for me. It can sound like, if you need space, that's okay, but I need a simple heads up and a time to reconnect. That is calm. That is clear. That is adult love. Because the avoidant often survives through ambiguity. Ambiguity gives them safety. It lets them be close without being accountable. It lets them keep access without commitment. And when you negotiate your needs, you help them stay in ambiguity. You keep offering closeness without requiring clarity. You keep giving access without requiring consistency. You keep providing emotional safety while sacrificing your own. Calm statements end ambiguity. They don't attack, they simply illuminate. They force a choice. And choices are uncomfortable for avoidance, because choices require responsibility. But that discomfort is not your enemy. That discomfort is the truth trying to surface. Because if someone cannot handle a calm request for consistency, they are not ready for a relationship, they are ready for access. And I know you might be afraid. What if stating my needs pushes them away? Let me say it gently. If a calm need pushes them away, they were already leaving. They were just leaving slowly while you kept trying to hold them. Your silence wasn't saving the relationship. Your silence was just delaying the disappointment. Calm truth doesn't destroy real love. It reveals what kind of love it is. Now here is where your nervous system will try to sabotage you, because the moment you state a need, you will feel the urge to soften it immediately. You will want to follow it with, "But it's okay if you can't," or "I'm sorry for bringing it up," or "I don't want to pressure you." And you think you're being kind, but you're actually erasing your own boundary before it has a chance to stand. You're teaching them that your needs are optional, that your standards are flexible, that if they hesitate, you'll retreat into smallness. So part of stating needs calmly is tolerating the silence that comes after. You say the sentence, and you let it land. You don't chase a response. You don't explain it 5 different ways. You don't justify your needs like they are a crime. You allow them to feel it. You allow them to show you who they are. Because the truth is, the real answer is not what they say back, it's what they do next. Do they step up? Do they communicate? Do they follow through? Do they respect the boundary? Or do they go vague, defensive, distant, and make you feel like you're asking for too much? This is why calm is powerful, because it makes the pattern visible. It removes the noise. It removes the drama. It removes the confusion. It shows you what you're dealing with. And it also changes you, because every time you state your needs calmly, you rebuild trust with yourself. You show yourself that you are allowed to want what you want. You show yourself that your needs are not a problem. You show yourself that you don't have to beg for basic effort. And that self-trust is what makes you stop chasing, because chasing often comes from fear. Fear that your needs are too much. Fear that your standards will make you unlovable. Fear that you must earn love through being easy. Calm statements break that fear. Calm statements say, "I am not too much, I am clear." And then the most important part, you follow your words with behavior, because a need stated calmly becomes a boundary when it has a consequence. Not a punishment, a consequence. If they continue to disappear, you reduce access. If they continue to stay vague, you stop offering closeness. If they continue to give crumbs, you stop treating crumbs like love. You don't have to scream. You don't have to explain again. Your behavior becomes the sentence. And that is when an avoidant either rises or leaves. Either they realize this person is calm but serious, warm but not endlessly available, or they retreat because they only wanted the version of you that had no needs. And if they leave, I want you to remember this: you didn't lose love. You lost a dynamic where you were negotiating your dignity. You didn't lose your chance, you gained your freedom, because love that requires you to silence yourself is not love that will hold you safely. So stop negotiating your needs. Stop trimming your truth. Start stating what you need calmly, clearly and once. Let your standards be steady. Let your voice be warm. Let your behavior match your words. Because the woman who can speak her needs without fear is the woman who stops chasing. And that is the woman who finally gets what she actually wanted all along. A love that meets her. Not a love that she has to beg to stay. Give freedom without giving unlimited access. Because this is the balance that either builds a real relationship with an avoidant or exposes that the relationship was never real to begin with. And I know that sounds intense, but it's true, because avoidants often crave space, and space can be healthy. But what breaks your heart is when space becomes a permission slip for disappearing inconsistency and keeping you on standby. That's not space. That's avoidance with benefits. That's them getting the comfort of connection without the responsibility of commitment. So this keynote is about learning the difference between love that gives room to breathe and love that leaves you gasping. Freedom is saying, I don't need to control you to feel secure. Freedom is respecting that another human being has their own rhythms, their own emotions, their own need for solitude, their own fear responses. Freedom is allowing someone to take a step back without punishing them for it. Freedom is not interrogating every quiet moment. Freedom is not demanding constant proof. Freedom is warm trust, not anxious monitoring. But unlimited access is the thing you must stop giving. Unlimited access is when they can vanish and return without repair. Unlimited access is when they can reach you whenever they're lonely and lose you whenever they're overwhelmed. Unlimited access is when they can have your emotional intimacy without offering emotional reliability. Unlimited access is when your heart stays open like a 24-hour store and they come in only when it's convenient. That destroys you because your nervous system never rests. You're always half waiting, always half hoping, always half bracing for the next pull away. And the avoidant stays comfortable because they get closeness without consequence. So giving freedom without unlimited access means you stop confusing tolerance with love. You stop confusing patience with self-abandonment. You stop calling it understanding when it's actually you accepting less than you need. Here is what freedom looks like. If they need space, they communicate. They say, I'm overwhelmed. I need a day. I'll call you tomorrow. Freedom is you hearing that and not spiraling. Freedom is you letting them have that day without punishing them with silence. Freedom is you continuing your life and not turning it into a crisis. Freedom is you trusting that space doesn't mean abandonment. And here is what unlimited access looks like. They disappear with no communication, then they return with a casual message like nothing happened, and you reward it with warmth because you're relieved. That's unlimited access. That's the cycle. That's you teaching them that they can drop the connection and pick it up whenever they want. So the balance is this: you allow space, but you require basic respect. Respect means no disappearing without a simple heads up. Respect means no returning without repair. Respect means no vague maybe that keeps you waiting. Respect means no late night intimacy with daytime absence. Respect means no emotional closeness without consistency. And I know your heart will argue, but if I require these things, they'll feel pressured. Listen to me carefully. There is a difference between pressure and standards. Pressure is trying to control their emotions. Standards are protecting your life. Pressure says, you must do this or else. Standards say, if this happens, this is what I will participate in, and this is what I won't. Pressure is trying to force them to be ready. Standards are refusing to suffer while they are not ready. So giving freedom without unlimited access means you make your boundaries about your behavior, not about changing them. You don't threaten, you don't beg, you don't lecture. You simply adjust access based on patterns. If they communicate and take space respectfully, you remain warm. If they disappear and return casually, you reduce access. If they stay vague, you stop offering closeness. If they show consistency, you open more. If they show inconsistency, you pull back. That is not a game. That is emotional hygiene. And it's heart-touching because it asks you to do the hardest thing: tolerate the discomfort of not rescuing the connection. When an avoidant pulls back, the part of you that loves them wants to run forward. The part of you that fears loss wants to fill the gap. The part of you that craves reassurance wants to chase. And boundaries feel like loss at first because you're used to using contact as relief. But relief is not love. Relief is a temporary calming of anxiety. And if you keep choosing relief, you keep choosing the cycle. So you learn to sit in the discomfort. You learn to let them have space without you chasing. You learn to let your phone be quiet without you turning it into a catastrophe. You learn to soothe yourself. You learn to breathe through the urge to reach out. You learn to protect your dignity. And this is where you become powerful, because the avoidant can no longer control the dynamic with distance. Their silence no longer makes you run. Their retreat no longer guarantees your pursuit. And that's when one of two things happens. If they have capacity, they start showing up more consistently, because the relationship now feels safer for them and more structured for you. They realize they can have freedom, but not at the cost of disrespect. They realize they can breathe, but they still have to communicate. They realize closeness is not a trap, but it does require responsibility. If they don't have capacity, they fade, because they only wanted access without accountability. They only wanted the comfort of you without the commitment to you. And I know that hurts, but it's also clarity. It's the truth you needed. Because the real tragedy is not losing someone who cannot meet you. The tragedy is staying in a dynamic that keeps breaking you slowly, calling it love, while your standards shrink and your self-respect erodes. So give freedom, yes. Give space, yes. Give room to breathe, yes. But do not give unlimited access to your heart. Your heart is not a place someone visits when they're lonely. Your heart is a home, and homes have doors, and doors have locks, not to punish, but to protect. And when you finally live this balance, you stop feeling like you're chasing love, and you start feeling like you're choosing love. Because love is not the absence of boundaries. Love is boundaries that protect what is sacred. Love is freedom with respect. Love is space with communication. Love is closeness that is earned, not assumed. And when you refuse unlimited access, you become the kind of woman who can love deeply without losing herself. And that is the only kind of love that is worth building. Watch patterns, not promises. Because promises can sound like love while patterns reveal whether love is safe. And if you have ever been pulled into an avoidance cycle, you know exactly how promises can keep you hooked. They promise they'll do better. They promise they miss you. They promise they care. They promise they're trying. They promise they just need time. They promise you're different. They promise they've never felt this way. And for a moment, your nervous system exhales because your heart was starving for certainty, starving for reassurance, starving for proof that you weren't crazy for caring. But then the pattern returns. Silence returns. Distance returns. Vague returns. Disappearing returns. The push and pull returns. And you sit there again with that familiar ache, wondering if you asked for too much, wondering if you moved too fast, wondering if you should have been more patient, more calm, more understanding. And that is how your self-trust gets broken, not in one big moment, but in 1,000 small compromises you make, because you believed a promise more than you believed a pattern. So this keynote is the line between heartbreak and peace. You stop letting words seduce you into staying, and you start letting behavior tell you the truth, because an avoidant can mean what they say and still not have the capacity to live it. They can feel love and still be terrified of intimacy. They can crave you and still run from consistency. They can promise change in a moment of emotion, and then disappear the moment the relationship asks them to show up. And if you keep watching promises, you will keep chasing the version of them that only exists in bursts. You will keep falling in love with potential, with intentions, with sweet moments, while your day-to-day reality keeps starving you. That is why patterns matter. Patterns are what your life actually experiences, not what your heart hopes. A pattern is not one bad day. A pattern is repetition. A pattern is what happens when things get close. A pattern is what happens when you ask for clarity. A pattern is what happens after conflict. A pattern is what happens when you express needs. A pattern is what happens when they feel overwhelmed. Do they communicate, or do they vanish? Do they repair, or do they reset? Do they follow through, or do they charm their way out of accountability? Because promises are easy. Patterns require effort. Promises can be spoken in minutes. Patterns are built over weeks. Promises can be written in a late-night message. Patterns are shown in daylight. Promises can be emotional. Patterns are practical. And the reason watching patterns is so emotional is because it forces you to face reality without the comfort of hope. Hope is seductive. Hope says, maybe this time will be different. Hope says, they're just scared. Hope says they're healing. Hope says, they love me, they just don't know how to show it. And sometimes hope is true, but hope without evidence becomes a prison. It becomes the reason you stay, even while your heart is breaking. So watching patterns means you stop asking, what did they say? And you start asking, what did they do? Did they make a plan? Did they follow through? Did they show up when they said they would? Did they communicate when they needed space? Did they apologize and then change something? Did they keep you in vague, or did they bring clarity? Did they make you feel stable, or did they make you feel anxious? And this is the part that saves you, because the avoidant dynamic often teaches you to distrust yourself. It teaches you to doubt your perceptions. It teaches you to overanalyze words, tone emojis, timing, trying to extract meaning from scraps. Patterns end that. Patterns are simple. Patterns are honest. Patterns don't require you to become a detective. When you watch patterns, you also stop rewarding the wrong things. You stop rewarding a sweet message with full access. You stop rewarding a temporary burst of attention with emotional intimacy. You stop letting a promise erase the pain of the last disappearance. You pace yourself. You let consistency be proven over time. You let trust be earned through repeated behavior, not emotional speeches. Because an avoidant's biggest weapon, sometimes without intention, is the reset. They disappear, then they return, and the return feels so good that you forget the disappearance. Your nervous system mistakes relief for love. You feel chosen because they came back. You feel special because they reached out. And you reopen your heart too quickly, and then the cycle repeats. Watching patterns means you don't get hypnotized by the reset. You don't treat return as repair. You don't treat words as proof. You treat return as an opportunity for them to show a new pattern. And if the new pattern doesn't show up, you don't keep investing. This is also where your standards become the clearest form of love you can give yourself. Because when you stop watching promises, you stop being emotionally bribed into staying. You stop being comforted into silence. You stop being soothed into settling. You start honoring the part of you that knows what you need: reliability, clarity, care, presence. And I know it hurts, because you might still love them. You might still miss them. You might still remember the good. But watching patterns is not about denying love. It's about protecting your life. Love is not the only thing that matters. Your peace matters. Your mental health matters. Your sleep matters. Your ability to focus matters. Your sense of self matters. And a love that keeps you anxious is not love that is safe, no matter how beautiful the promises sound. So you become the woman who listens to reality. You become the woman who says, I hear your promise, and I'm going to watch what you do next. You become the woman who doesn't argue for effort. You become the woman who doesn't beg for consistency. You become the woman who doesn't keep offering her heart to someone who keeps dropping it. And that changes everything, because now you are no longer controlled by words. You are no longer kept by potential. You are no longer trapped in maybe. You are anchored in evidence. And if they truly want you, if they truly value you, they will rise to meet you in pattern. They will show up again and again. They will follow through. They will communicate. They will repair. They will build something steady. And if they don't, you will finally stop giving your heart away in exchange for promises that never become a life. Because watching patterns is how you stop chasing. It is how you stop hoping your way into heartbreak. It is how you stop negotiating with reality. It is how you choose a love that is not just spoken, but lived. A love that doesn't leave you guessing. A love that meets you with consistency. Because you finally decided you would rather be alone than be kept by someone's promises, while being starved by their patterns.